So Israel has attacked Qatar. Well, they were attacking Hamas leadership inside Doha, which is Qatar. Yet another country, Israel, has attacked because of Hamas, the freaking Palestinian leadership that, just never seems to go away, I guess. It's ridiculous. So now we had attacks in attacks in Lebanon, attacks in Syria, attacks in West Bank, attacks in Gaza, attacks in Yemen, attacks in Iran, and attacks in Qatar. So, yeah, that's 7 different places, man, to take out one type of leadership. Interesting fact about Doha. Doha is a place for negotiations. Interesting fact about the targets. They are the leadership of Hamas, the people who are having the negotiations with Israel. This is not uncommon because Israel has done this before. So, they attack the chief negotiators. It is what it is, man. It's just sad. These guys have no repercussions to their actions whatsoever.
Saying about this?
Well, we have a strong statement from Qatar, as you might imagine. They have issued a statement through their foreign ministry spokesperson saying that this attack is a, quote, criminal assault, also saying that it is cowardly and that it is a blatant violation of international laws and norms. Now, Doha would be furious with what has happened. It's worth pointing out, as Jeremy mentioned there, that the Hamas main negotiator, Khalil al-Hayya,
International law, like I said before, it does not matter to Israel. They are backed by the U.S. The only people that can make Israel pay is the U.S., and they won't do it, especially not now with Trump. So the next 3 years is going to be sad, dude. I don't know. It's going to be horrific. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
is stationed in Doha. He also met with the Qatari Prime Minister, who's also the Foreign Minister, just on Monday, we understand. And the Prime Minister was trying to push him and urge him to accept this US proposal for the ceasefire hostage deal that was on the table. So there were active negotiations between Hamas stationed in Doha and the Qatari Prime Minister. Now, Qatar has been one of the key mediators alongside Egypt and the United States, and this is certainly a very shocking development. Now, we have seen Israel targeting Hamas leadership in other countries. We have heard repeatedly from the Israeli Prime Minister that nobody in Hamas is safe and they will target them wherever they are. But in the past, they have targeted them in Tehran, for example, in Syria, in the deeper parts, in Jordan. But there has not been this kind of attack somewhere like Doha. And also, of course, it was Ismail Haniyeh, who was the political chief of Hamas, who was assassinated in Tehran. He, at the time, was the chief negotiator. And if, as Jeremy suggests, it was again the chief negotiator for this ceasefire hostage deal that has been targeted, it raises questions, once again, about whether Israel wants this deal to be done. The timing is very...
They don't want a deal to be done. This is absolutely insane, bro. Obviously, Israel doesn't want a deal to be done. A deal would have been done a long time ago. They want one thing, and that is the full annexation of the Gaza Strip, and probably to make that Riviera of the Middle East. The thing is, there's so much blood on that soil that no one's going to want to go there. Who's going to want to go there? Israel is, through these past actions, Israel has become a pariah state. Literally, before all this, and this is, I'm going to put this kind of like on U.S. media. We did not cover Palestinian Israeli conflict that much. Abby Martin did, but she is independent. Shout out to Abby Martin. And among other people, of course. But mainstream media did not cover this conflict that has been going on for a very long time. Once in a while, you get on NPR, they talk about how they would mow the lawn in Palestine. But that's it. There was no major coverage of this. And now, maybe things could have been a little bit different. Pressure could have been different in Americans' eyes. It could have been a bigger issue. But right now, Israel is a pariah state, man, and they have no one to blame but themselves. No one's gonna go there. Who wants to take a vacation on a place where you definitely ethnically cleanse? And if they take everyone out of Palestine, which they really want to do, it'd be a genocide. Genocide. Why would you want to? That's like building a freaking theme park in Auschwitz. Like, no one wants that. Absolutely insane, bro. Absolutely insane.
Surprising, given the fact that this new US proposal was on the table. The US President Donald Trump had given his verbal approval of it, saying he didn't want to see some hostages released one day and then some more the next week. He wanted all hostages released at the same time. That is what this deal is. It was on the table. We understand Hamas was looking at it. So, of course, a good question is, what does this mean for that deal now? Now, another interesting point that the Qatari officials gave in this statement
There is
was
no
they said it
deal.
was residential buildings that were targeted. These buildings were housing several members of the Hamas political bureau. But the fact that it was residential buildings that were targeted in Doha, again, significant. We don't believe that there was a warning for people on the ground. Was this just Hamas who was impacted in this strike?
That's how I know these dudes is just not Israeli people. I love Jewish culture. I'm down with it. I love it so much. Not Jewish people. This Israeli government. And I understand there is this feeling that Israel is the only safe place for Jewish people, which is probably not true. I mean, you have New York and you have other places around US and Europe where Jewish people live and thrive, but Israel was built up to be their safe space. I understand that. But the way they are just going through these things is just unacceptable, man. It's so unacceptable. They don't want negotiations. Imagine this. Imagine if us as America attacked a residential area in Shanghai because North Korean officials were in it. How would that play out? Or you could flip it the other way around. How would you feel if, let's just say, really anti-American? I don't know. Let's just say Venezuela attacked the UK because there were some US officials in it. How would that go down? Scorched earth, man. It'd be scorched earth. But we allowed this to happen. And I say we, I mean the US, because the US is the only thing that can't put clamps on Israel, and they won't. This government is tyrannical, man. It's insane.
All right, Paula Hancock, thank you very, very much. We'll stay in close touch with you. I want to go get the latest from the White House. Kevin Liptak is there for us. Kevin, what are you hearing from White House officials?
Yeah, officials still very much digesting the news of what happened is on the ground there in Doha. According to an Israeli official, the U.S. was notified ahead of time of their plans to carry out this strike. We have not gotten confirmation of that from the White House, and I think that that will be a very critical piece of information as we sort of digest what is happening here. As both Jeremy and Paula have noted, this comes at quite a critical moment. President Trump, as recently as Sunday, said that he thought a deal in Gaza could happen very soon as a result of this new plan that he had put on the table that would result in the immediate release of all 48 of those hostages in exchange for Israel ending its campaign to occupy Gaza City. He also wrote something of an ominous warning on True Social that day, saying that he's warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting this deal, that this was his last warning, there will not be another one. So whether that was
The only way that this hostage situation is going to work is if US puts security guarantees for Palestine. Israel cannot be left up to any form of security in Palestine. They don't hold them in high enough regard. They're subhuman to the IDF, and it's just it is what it is, man. They're not responsible enough to look over Palestinian people. These hostages, it's terrible to take hostages. It's especially to hold them for this long, but I'm pretty sure they view it as like their only card they have left. If there's no hostages, what's stopping Israel from just blowing straight through the whole entire country? They're already international pariahs. I mean, come on, they haven't. Israel really doesn't have anything left to lose with the U.S. backing them. It's just a pushback from the hostages from the Israeli people, and if that's not a stopgap measure, then Israel could run amok. And what is the U.S. going to do? You know what I mean? Some people say Israel controls the U.S., U.S. controls Israel, but at the end of the day, we fund them, so it is what it is. Will the U.S. stop Israel from taking over Gaza and leveling it? I mean, it's already leveled, but, finishing the job? No, not with Trump in the office, bro. Come on, man. Mr. Pull-out chair, man. Come on.
Issued with the knowledge that Israel was planning this attack is a question that I think we have heading into today as we hear more from White House officials about what exactly transpired here. The other question is what this does to the U.S.-Qatar relationship. This has been quite a critical relationship. The Qataris have spent ample time trying to cultivate President Trump and his administration over the last several months. President Trump was the first U.S. president to visit Qatar back in May. Qatar hosts the forward headquarters of CENTCOM at Al Udeid Air Base. So some critical components of the U.S. national security infrastructure housed in Qatar. And according to Qataris who have said this over the last several years, it is actually the United States who asked Qatar to host Hamas's political leadership in Doha as a venue to have these kinds of negotiations. So how all of this sort of adds up over the coming hours, I think, remains to be seen. Just one more thing.
With all that, I think even the plane too, even with the plane, Israel will face no repercussions. None at all.
We have heard from the U.S. Embassy in Doha. They're saying that they've seen the reports of these missile strikes. They say that they've issued a shelter in place at their facilities, and they're encouraging U.S. citizens who live in the Qatari capital to shelter in place as well. So the U.S. government now advising both its employees at the embassy, but also all citizens in the Qatari capital to shelter in place as the fallout of this attack becomes known.
Yeah, it's really a serious, major development that's unfolding right now. And Kevin, a lot of people probably don't realize that the U.S. and Qatar have an extremely close military-to-military relationship. The U.S. Military Central Command, for example, has bases at the Al Udeid Air Base. A lot of Air Force personnel are there. And Camp Asaliya, as you pointed out, ground troops. That's basically a regional headquarters for the U.S. Military's Central Command. There are a lot of U.S. military personnel on the ground right now in and around Doha, Qatar. So that's a significant development. We'll continue to watch and monitor that as well. We'll see if that had any impact on this Israeli decision to go ahead and target these facilities in and around Doha, Qatar, where they suspect.
Absolutely not. They don't care, bro. They don't care. As long as they didn't hit any, like, of course you're not going to attack the U.S. embassy, the U.S. Bases, none of that stuff. But they don't care, bro. It doesn't matter. They don't care about the U.S. relations with Qatar, bro. It's oh my god, bro. It's so insane. Whoa, we do. And there's nothing we can do. Anyways, another thing that makes me angry, they always talk about intelligence and the Mossad and stuff. Why aren't they doing surgical precision like teams? Why aren't they flying helicopters in? Why aren't they, heck, have little assassination squads? Of course not. You know why? They know what they're doing, bro. They know what they're doing. Sowing chaos. Sowing chaos. And it's letting the other countries know, like, we could touch you. We could touch you if we want to. No big deal. One day, we'll be there. You know what I mean? We don't care about your civilian population. None of that. We could get you.
Hamas officials may be, but these negotiations are continuing. All right, Kevin Liptak, thanks very much. Paula Hancock, Jeremy Diamond, thanks to you as well.
Yeah, and we should also note, when you look at the U.S. and Qatar relationship, it was Qatar that gifted controversially that luxury jet to President Trump recently to replace Air Force One. It is a close ally of the United States, so it will be interesting to hear from the White House on this. But I first want to go to CNN Chief International Correspondent Clarissa Ward, our correspondent in London. Clarissa, just talk about the significance of what's going on right now.
I mean, this is a seismic event. It's not often you read something across the wires that makes your jaw drop, but this was certainly fall into that category. And I think what will be crucial in the coming hours is trying to ascertain Israel's claim that the U.S. was aware of this strike. How aware of the strike were they? Did they effectively condone it? And if so, what could the possible impact of that tacit acceptance of this strike be in terms of the relationship between Qatar and the U.S.? And as Kevin was just articulating, and as you...
Ooh, that's some shit too, bro. Ain't it? Ain't it? That's some shit. They let the U.S. know they were striking them, bro. So they can't even like have plausible deniability. Israel's like, yo, we told the U.S. we're doing this to you. Oh god, it's such bully behavior, bro. Basically, what it boils down to is Israel is a bully. Palestinians are the neighbor that they had beef with, and after a while, after a couple of things got exchanged, Palestinians punched them in the mouth, and Israel continued to just dominate them, beat them to the inch of their life, lock them in the closet, don't feed them. Every once in a while, they go out and punch a family member, and sneak punch them, and that's the relationship right now. And they're just waiting for that body to leave this earth. Absolutely insane, bro. That's what this is analogous to.
And Wolf have been discussing. This is a crucial relationship for the U.S. Qatar is host to the largest U.S. base in the entire Middle East. This is a close relationship that has lasted over many different administrations. And Qatar has effectively cultivated a unique space for itself in terms of being a neutral space where these talks and negotiations between various non-state actors and states and terrorist groups can happen in.
I don't even honestly, I don't even like holding water for Qatar because they have like indentured servitude, bro. When that World Cup thing happened, it was terrible. It was terrible. They're like kidnapping people and forcing them to work. But like, Israel does not help with this cause at all. They don't help. It's just whatever way they could look bad, they will do it. Let's put it that way.
In a safe and sensible manner. This is not the first time, by the way. We're looking very much now at the talks between Hamas and the U.S. and Egypt and Qatar and Israel. But of course, Qatar was also host to the Taliban and was a crucial part of the U.S. navigating its withdrawal from Afghanistan and essentially forming some kind of a dialogue between the U.S. and the Taliban that without an interlocutor like Qatar would be effectively impossible. And I think the question now becomes, beyond the sort of U.S. Qatar of it, what does this mean for these negotiations at such a crucial point in this conflict? Do they effectively end for the moment? Do they move?
What's the thing I just get angry at too? And it's not any of their fault. It's just they're not seeing it for what it is, bro. These negotiations don't mean anything. The ceasefire, if they have a ceasefire, Israel is gonna break it, bro. It is what it is. They fire up to the second the ceasefire, and then they have a little ceasefire, and then before the ceasefire is over, they start attacking again. Same thing happened to Iran. It's just these ceasefires don't mean anything to them. I don't know why they're even taken seriously. It's absolutely insane. I know there's no other way, but that's not a way. It's just not a way. There has to be a different way because they're not going to stop.
To a different location? Do we see Qatar try to launch some kind of a retaliation? I'm not even talking about a military retaliation, but some kind of a very strong diplomatic retaliation at Israel. What does that look like? And does it effectively torpedo these efforts, which had been ostensibly, according to multiple sources, gathering some momentum recently to try to push towards some kind of, if not a permanent end, at least a temporary stop to the fighting in Gaza? Pamela?
All right, Clarissa Ward, thank you so much. I know that you're working the phones right now trying to gather more information. We appreciate it.
And I've spent a lot of time in and around Doha, Qatar, at the Camp Asaliya base, as well as the El Udeid Air Base. And this relationship between the U.S. military's Central Command and the Qatari military is very close. It's a key regional ally of the U.S., and we'll have more on the impact of how this Israeli strike is going to impact all of that.
At the end of the day, Israel made an attack, and they'll get away with it. And that's just it. All this extra stuff is fluff. It's a residential area, and there's going to be zero repercussions for that. Zero anything. Israel is fine. There you go. That's it. Until the U.S. wants to put on their big boy pants and tell them to stop, nothing's going to happen. That's it. Doesn't matter if it's Qatar. Now, if it was in Europe or something like that, it'd be a different subject. But since it's in the Middle East, they don't care. I'm telling you, they don't care. Anyways, that's it, man. Like, subscribe. Out.